Hey, this is Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Tonight, we're going to go over briefly your mechanical offset and sight over bore. They're essentially the same thing, but really what we're going to be covering is some of the basic fundamental introduction in CQB. Now, you've probably heard of these things before, mechanical offset and sight over bore, and really what they are applying to is when we're considering zeroing a rifle. But when you start to get in close, things change a little bit as we get within the distance between your intended target and where your zero is actually set up. All right, so what is our mechanical offset? Well, mechanical offset refers to, and when we're looking at an AR platform, mechanical offset is going to refer to where our sights are above where the bore is for that rifle, okay, from the barrel to the muzzle. Now, on something like an AK, where the stock actually drops back down, and when you get your cheek weld, your eyeball is getting much lower into that rifle, the sights on an AK, or something like even like an M1 Garand, and some of those older field battle rifles, that mechanical offset's going to be very, very small. But you get something modern like an AR, where we're mounting optics quite a bit higher above that, we actually will have quite a bit of change when it comes to where our rounds are going to land, not only for our zero, and that's going to be for a different video when we're talking about zeroing, but for tonight we're talking about for CQB, when we're coming within that zeroing distance, where that round is going to land and point of impact, we're actually not hitting our first intercept. Now, what is that first intercept? Well, anytime you have a round coming out of a rifle, that round is actually taking a parabolic arc. It's essentially an arcing out of the barrel. It's not just a straight line. However, our optic or our iron sights with our eyeball looking through that essentially is an infinite straight line coming out. So it is a game of geometry that we're actually fighting against, okay? Now, the first intercept is where my optic line meets the parabola of that round coming out of the barrel. And as that continues on, our second intercept is going to be further down. So something with, say, a 50-yard zero is going to have a first intercept at 50 yards, and then about 200 yards, you're going to have that second intercept as the round is then affected by gravity and air resistance and drops that round back down. Now, normally what is happening for that zero, as we're looking through our optic, that line of sight out of our eyeball, we need to adjust that to meet up where those intercepts are going to be on the rifle. So essentially, as our eyeball looks down, we're essentially canting the barrel to meet that intercept. That's the general gist of it. Okay, it's a little more advanced of that. Of course, we want to do our windage adjustments, we want to do our elevation adjustments, and take that all into consideration. But that's the base premise of it. As we come within that 50-yard distance and we get closer, we start hitting CQB environments where the concept of the first intercept, that's gone. And what's going to happen with that is that where I actually place my reticle or my iron sights, because of that zero, my round is going to hit lower. And that's something you have to adjust for when you're in that CQB environment. So what we have right here is we've actually downloaded and just printed off real quick. These are a diagnostic tool. You can print these off yourself, and a lot of different companies have them. I think T-Rex Arms has one, but this is Tactical Performance Center, and this is just referred to as a height over bore tool. And what we're going to do is that we have a couple shooters, and we're going to actually introduce them to this, and we're going to place our reticle on the black dot, and where our round lies based off of our zero is the inch in adjustments that we have to make when shooting at a target in close quarters environment. So tonight we're actually going to be shooting about 5 to 7 yards for that, and I'll demonstrate that for you real quick right now. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to, from the 7-yard line, I'm going to place my reticle over that black dot I showed you downrange. And what we're going to see is our rounds are going to hit lower than where that reticle is actually placed. And that's because that intercept point is now coming in closer to where the barrel and the optic are at their origin points, okay? Literally, it's geometry. It's a triangle that's coming out to meet at the first intercept and meeting again at the second intercept. But because we're in close, that triangle is going to go back to its origin point. So we're going to be hitting lower. All right, now let's see where the rounds hit. And already what I'm looking at beyond my first one that I decided to throw, but I've got about a 2-inch mechanical offset from where that black dot is. So as I'm within that 7-yard distance, I'm going to want to take that into account. I'm going to need to, in order to hit the black, I need to aim 2 inches higher than that black dot. So let's go back up range and let's adjust for those 2 inches, and I'll show you what that looks like now that we're going to be back up range and adjusting higher to hit that black dot with our rounds. All right, let's look and see where those rounds landed. And we're hitting right where we need to be. So with a 2-inch adjustment, and I could probably just go a little bit higher, probably aiming a little bit more towards the TPC up here. But as you can see, now we're actually hitting our black dot. So if you think in a defensive situation, say you're defending your home and you've got a 50-yard zero on your rifle, we're gonna want to adjust for that, aim up about 2 inches higher on this 10.3-inch barrel in order to actually hit high thoracic cavity on, say, an intruder in our home in a self-defense situation. All right, so we're gonna have a couple of students, it's just James and Jay from the channel, and we're going to go through their mechanical offset right now, that height over bore in a CQB situation, some of the 7-yard line, and they're going to use this diagnostic tool themselves also. All right, students, go ahead and load and make ready. All right, safe and let them hang. All right, so when you know the course of fire, we're going to be firing 3 rounds, slow, steady, just at your own pace, okay? Make sure you have good fundamentals, good shooting position, okay? And we're going to aim for the black dot. Put your reticle on the black dot. Clear?
I just got pelted in the face. Let it be known that I took these shots while getting pelted with brass.
He did. Jaden pelted him with brass. So, as you can see, he's probably has a 50-yard zero on his optic too. He's hitting about the 2-inch lower mark. So you're going to want to adjust 2 inches above that, aiming for the TPC, and that's where you're going to hit that. So again, for that self-defense situation, if we want to hit high thoracic cavity to ensure that first shot incapacitation, you know, the safest way to defend ourselves, right? Stop that threat the first time, then we're going to want to adjust for that in that close quarters environment. Now, Jaden did 2 rounds. Looks like he might have thrown one.
That was, yeah, this was my first shot. This was my second shot. I did not wait long enough for my follow-up shot.
So he probably has another 2-inch holdover too, sighted again at 50 yards.
It's
so we're going to have that again, 2-inch adjustment over the top of that, aiming for the TPC. So go back to the 7-yard line. Let's make that 2-inch adjustment for both of you. We're going to place that reticle over the TPC logo, and that should be hitting a black. All right, let's look at Jay's now. And there we go. We did 2 sets of it, and so he readjusted. So he hit a little bit lower on the first one. Maybe he's hitting probably just below the TPC. Aimed it up just a little bit higher top of the TPC. We're hitting black. So he does have about a 2-inch adjustment at a 50-yard zero when you're at that 7-yard line. And this is still going to vary based on where you are. I mean, if you're hitting 15 yards, it's going to be just a little bit tighter than that. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at James. That counts, obviously. So again, he aimed for the TPC, adjusting for that 2 inches for that 2-inch sight over bore, that 2-inch mechanical offset, and lo and behold, what are we hitting? We're hitting into the black on that. So that's the basics and a quick go over on mechanical offset in that CQB environment, okay? So always remember that depending on that zero, the closer you get into your target, the closer you are past that first intercept of where your round and your optic are meeting, okay? So past where that first intercept zero is set to, you're going to widen that gap between that first intercept into where your actual optic is and the bore of your rifle is. So you have to adjust for that when you're downrange. So for a 50-yard zero, we're using EOTechs on a couple of these rifles tonight. We had to adjust, make a 2-inch adjustment. So if we want to hit high thoracic cavity, we got to be hitting possibly into the chin area on that target to actually hit that to get that proper first shot incapacitation in, say, a defensive situation. So, hey, this is Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Thanks for sticking around tonight. God bless and good night. Remember, stay prepared, not scared.